YouTube people, we have the full PSA survey, or most of the PSA survey. Some kind viewers have passed this information along to me, and I have the screenshots to present to you. A PSA survey that focuses mostly on collectors club stuff. Now, let's preface this thing. This is a survey. This does not mean this stuff is coming. This is them testing the waters, looking for feedback, that sort of thing. However, there are some interesting nuggets in here, and I think we can draw some conclusions on possibly what they are looking to do in the future, mostly around Collectors Club. Like I said, this survey was very focused on Collectors Club. We did the video yesterday afternoon / evening about the elite tier, and we'll get more into that because we have some additional information on that. There's a bunch of slides here. I'm going to move through some of these pretty quickly and just focus on a couple of things. So the first chunk of this that we're going to talk about, these are basically them listing off features and you saying most likely, least likely. And a lot of these same things appear on multiple slides with mixed in with other ones. It looks like it would have been a real pain in the butt to take this thing, but it looks like their end goal is just to try to figure out what value adds you want. This first section sounds like it's talking about just regular Collectors Club, not the elite thing. That's something different. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So right now we have Collectors Club. You get the PSA magazine, you get card ladder potentially, depending on if you're on premium or regular. These are things that they are looking to add to that. You get access to bulk and you get access to specials. And then in addition to it, they are possibly looking at these other things. So I'm not going to focus necessarily on the questions. I just kind of want to focus on some of the things that they are potentially looking at adding as value adds to Collectors Club. 2 free graders notes per year. Drop off at any PSA office. PSA magazine, that's one we already have. Free in-person pickup. 2 of the 4 of these aren't going to work for a lot of people because you have to be local to a PSA office or Burbank. So basically, California, Jersey, that's it. 2 free grader notes per year. Not bad. I actually kind of enjoy the PSA magazine, especially the promos. The 2 free graders notes per year are probably the best thing on this list if you're asking me. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide. Ability to buy hobby boxes at MSRP. Interesting one, kind of weird. Access to Card Ladder Pro. That one is already technically one of the ones offered at the moment. Shipping discounts. Get 25% off return shipping fees for graded orders. And then we see 2 graders notes per year again. I actually think I agree with whoever hit the blue on this one. The shipping discount is probably the best one on here. 25% off shipping for PSA orders is not bad at all. Next one. Discounted selling fees for 5 eBay listings per year when selling through PSA Consignment. Not the best, not the worst. If you had a handful of high-valued cards, that could add up to be a decent chunk of change. It just depends on the individual user, which a lot of this stuff is going to come down to. We see the hobby boxes again. Grading specials. This is just a very generic term. Access to grading specials, essentially. And then fast lane at PSA events. That one's going to vary for the individual person because of how active they are going to things that have PSA at them. The only one that I could think this would be important would be at the National. I don't know what the drop-off events look like at the PSA offices. I don't know if those have a super long line. Maybe it's worth it for that. But generally speaking, I don't know that that's a super big deal in my opinion. I think most people would lean towards grading specials on this one. 1 free grading credit, $25 eBay credit to be used on the PSA eBay store, $50 credit to spend on power packs, or $50 credit to spend at an online retail shop. And then they list some examples there. None of these really jump out to me. Probably the $50 credit to spend at an online store, because I would use that to buy a box maybe. A free grading credit is nice, but one card at $25, I just don't know what you're going to do with that. I guess if it's included in with another order, but then you're trying to get the bulk. This one feels awkward to me. $25 credit to use at the PSA store on eBay is okay. I mean, if you're just tossing it in, I guess it's fine. I don't care about power packs. So like I said, of these, I would rather have this $50 to shop at a retail store. These are duplicates, just different ones grouped together. So once again, on this survey, they would present these options, it looks like, and then kind of shake them up a little bit and mix different ones together to try, it looks like, to get your preference on which one that you like. Here's one with one new thing anyway. Early access to new PSA features. I don't know how many people care about that. Most people are signing up for Collectors Club to save money in some shape or form. Once again, same list of things there. So you could see the trend here. They're just continuing to mix up the same things on these various different offers. So let me go ahead and skip through these. I just want to make sure that I am not missing any that they listed on here. Here, special promo produced exclusively for PSA Magazine. This is a new one that they're throwing in. I actually think this is pretty important. Some of those promos sell for a decent chunk of money. I know I sold one of the one-piece promos. I graded it, and I sold it for like double or triple what my membership cost. So that one card alone paid for the whole thing plus some. So I think these promos are pretty important. I would have definitely voted high on that one. Once again, more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. Okay, we'll get to this. So this is just some summary stuff. They did have some questions, it looks like, in regards to would you subscribe to the PSA magazine on its own? And they had various different price points to choose from. They also just give some general overview of, benefits that you may see. And then down here, we get back to this PSA Elite thing that we discussed in the video yesterday. It is confirmed that the pitch, remember, none of this is necessarily happening. This is them taking the temperature of things. But they list a $500 price point for this. So it would be $500 plus the $200 card ladder subscription, PSA magazine, and the access to specials and everything. On top of that, you would get both PSA magazines now. You would get a grading credit, which, like I said earlier, kind of awkward. Still no details on this. This could be the make or break. I'm not going to lie. The 2 free looks, depending on what the declared value on that is, that alone could be worth $500 easily if you have high-end cards. Discounted shipping, 25% is a pretty good discount. A lot of it's going to come down to how many orders are you sending out to see if you can make the money back on that one. Dedicated customer service rep, sure, sounds great. VIP area at the National, basically a line cut. So sometimes that could be worth it. That PSA line at the National is no joke. So being able to have a fast lane could potentially be a pretty good time saver if time is a major issue for you. And then the tour of a PSA grading operation, that's just a fluff option. It would be great to see, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be limited on who could use it because of the access to either California or New Jersey. So those are the full benefits of the Elite. That's what we discussed last night. There were a few other survey questions on here. Nothing super crazy. Would you be likely to buy PSA gift cards, a PSA slab case? And then would you be interested in power packs, or the other questions of note that were sent over to me? So here's my big overall takeaway from this. To me, it seems like they are looking for incentives to add on to Collectors Club that are not solely focused on discounts for grading. And I have a theory on why that is. I don't know for sure. This is just me speculating. Over the past 3 to 4 months, maybe even actually longer now that I think about it, and I mentioned this in last night's video, these specials that you get via Collectors Club have not been great. There's been basically no low value ones. The ones that they have offered have been extremely high end, very niche, just have not been good. And I get it because they're backed up. It does not make sense for them to offer an aggressive special when they're already backlogged or mini backlogged, shall we say. So I understand why they're not offering specials, but it has definitely, for sure, caused a lot of frustration with current Collectors Club members. And I can't even tell you how many comments I have gotten from people saying they are canceling their membership because the lack of specials. Reading through that survey, and even those specials were in there, I get the vibe that they are either A, trying to add a lot of value to it to cut back on the specials, or they're just trying to add value to it in conjunction with the specials, so it just feels like there's more meat on the bone when the specials go away because of circumstances that are out of their control, like crazy demand. Because right now with Collectors Club, a lot of people, most people are subscribing to it to get the discounts on grading. When you can't offer the discounts on grading, the mob gets angry and the pitchforks and torches come out. And I don't know that this would solve the thing for everybody, but if you had these other things to point to of, oh, well, yep, discounts to grading are important, but you also get these 3 other things. And some of those things that were on those various lists are going to impact certain people differently. Some people it's going to be a big deal for. Some people, they're going to be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I would never use this. And you're always going to have a little bit of that. So it seems like they are trying to add value into Collectors Club and maybe have it not focus on pricing specials as much, but give you other things, or at least have a foundation built that if they have to pull back on the specials, that it doesn't feel as bad. Because I have to imagine their membership numbers have dropped pretty substantially just based off comments. Small sample size, so maybe this is completely wrong, but it feels like just off the number of comments that I've seen that a lot of people are like, I don't really need this anymore. I'm done. On the elite thing, is this worth $500? I think it's really going to depend on the person. And it's going to depend on what the details are on that free look service. Now, I tell you what I'd like to see. If you're listening, PSA. If you're a PSA Elite member, if I'm going to pay you $500, I think how can I couch this that makes it more likely to happen? I think if you are a PSA Elite member, I think every one of your cards above bulk, so the lowest bulk tier service would not include this, but basically value service and up would get graders notes included with their order. I think that would be a pretty big deal. I think that would be a very good enticement, even if you had to potentially take something off this list. And maybe that's too much air quote to give. Really, you guys should be giving graders notes on most cards. Don't just restrict it to the high end. But I think if you're an elite member, you should get graders notes on any order, value, and above, regardless of quantity. Just do it. Just include it in there. And maybe this is a thing where Elite's not wide open. Maybe it's like Montgomery Club, where there's X number of spots for Elite. And when it sells out, it sells out. And then at the end of every year, there is a renewal time and people renew, and people that don't renew opens up spots, and maybe they add a few more spots in, however you want to kind of manage it. But something like that, maybe not a bad idea. It'd probably be tough to do because everyone right now is all over the place on their Collector Club memberships. But I would personally like to see, if you're paying for Elite, give me Graders Notes on anything value and up. As it stands, the $500, the question that I ask myself is, would I sign up for it for $500? It's going to depend on the crossover look. That's where I'm at. I know I've mentioned that before. That to me is the biggest potential value add on there. So it would come down to any restrictions placed on that. And like I say, my wish list item is anything value up gets Graders Notes, but that's not on the list. That's me wish casting it to be on the list. So that's where we sit. It looks like they are gathering feedback on what to do with Collectors Club, how to add more value to it. So if you have any bright ideas, fire them off in the comment section down below. Maybe someone from PSA will see it and take note. As always, curious for your full thoughts and comments down there as well. We will catch you boys and girls tomorrow on the weekly sports card market update. Rare Saturday video. I don't do Saturday videos very often anymore, but I thought this was worth it since we got the full survey. Catch you on the next one. Peace.